Hi everyone. So I'm Rahul Keswani. Let's discuss about the new feature that I have completed, and moreover, it's nothing but like we will be showcasing correlation between our logs and infra metrics in Kubernetes environment. So let's say like if any service or application is running on Kubernetes and they are emitting logs, and we are interested in checking out like how that particular application or service will look at a particular point of time. So for that, actually, we have created this feature so that one can correlate with your infra metrics at any given point of time. So let's see like how we can utilize it. So let's say if I click on this particular log line, a drawer will open, and inside this, we have created a new tab called as metrics. If you click on this, you will be having two sub tabs. First of all, like again, it would be the default sub tab would be pod, and another would be node. So let's discuss this again, like what is a pod. As we know, like pod is a smallest unit in your Kubernetes, which is wrapping up or which is on the top of your container, or kind of a pod can have again one or more containers. So basically, let's say this pod or service instance that is running in my Kubernetes, I have allocated some CPU usage request and some memory usage things to this particular pods. And what if like at some point I want to check like whether this particular CPU usage, the percentage of request or like the request, you can say parameters that we have given, is it going beyond the limit? Let's say someone wants to check something like this. So at that moment, this particular matrix is very useful. So for example, let's say like to this particular pod, I have assigned around one CPU or 1 GB RAM, you can say. And at that moment, however, like let's assume like the limit is one CPU, like the limit is around, you can say, 5 CPUs and again 10 GB RAM. So according to this particular limit, the pod will act. Let's say if pod is in future requesting more than, you can say, one CPU, then it can again have that particular advantage, because now we have assigned that much limit. But let's say if at any given point of time it's going beyond the limit, then at that moment Kubernetes will kill this particular service instance, and then it will just be kind of again auto heal. But at that moment again, to see like what went wrong and like what was the limit, does it spike to that particular limit? So all such things are very important for a person to debug this information. And these things we can see here. So we have something like pod CPU usage, percentage of request, you can see here, this is what was mentioned. So around, like we can see here, till 12%, more than 12%, I would say around 13% we have allocated. This is something like I want. And if I see the usage or the limit that was given to this particular pod, that is also visible. So in case if it's going beyond this particular limit, so if I want to take some necessary steps as a developer to stop these things, or like to make it, to adjust the limit, all such scenarios can be done by looking at this particular metrics. Same is true with your pod memory as well. So let's say if someone has allocated around, as we discussed, like around 1 GB of RAM, but let's say this particular resource wants more than that. This particular pod wants memory around 10 GB or something like that. Then according to your limit, you have to adjust your pod. So this metrics are very useful in this way. Again, you can see here like we have two more metrics, like pod file system usage and pod network IO. So again, let's say how pods are communicating to the external world. That is one more thing. So you can look out about the network IO, and that will give you a good amount of idea. Same is true with your file usage as well. So that's about your pod metrics. Something to add here, to be honest, like is, let's say like we have seen at some point like there can be a memory like leak issue. You created an application and it has an infinite kind of a for loop which is running infinitely. That can cause a problem, or that can create a memory leak also. Like let's assume just like you are facing some issues of memory leak in your application or service. At that moment, this things basically helps you to get an idea what are going on with your infra metrics. Was it like out of this particular memory? What happened to this particular, you can say, pod? All such information can be taken, kind of, you can say, taken care from here. And also like we can get an idea what is going on with our pod metrics. So basically this is how like you can take a judgment or like take an idea like what is going on with your services in Kubernetes. Also, one more thing apart from, let's say, like even if your services are crashing, something bad is happening, all such things can be like can make an idea here. Like we can take the metrics as reference, and we can make an idea like what is going wrong or what we have to do to solve these issues. So each log will provide you the information about your pod metrics. And again, as we know, like there is something called as node as well, which is again which can have multiple pods. So if I come here to my node, and let's assume like in some case I have not set my pod limit. In our case right now, we can see I have a limit here for pod metrics, but let's assume like it was not there. Then it will take the memory, and you can say your CPU limit according to your node CPU and memory usage. That's one more thing. And at that moment, like this node matrix is very important, because this is some, like as we can assume, this is your VM or like a physical server which is having your pods. So we can make again an idea like what is going on with your nodes, how your network, like how your external calls are going on. So you can see this network IO. You can again make an idea with your file, like what is going on with your files. All such ideas can be taken care from node metrics. Again, how much CPU is allocated to the entire node, about your node memory, what is the memory of your this particular node, what is your CPU. So all such things can be visible from this particular node metrics. Further, like you can see here how it was used. At some point we reached to our 15% on this time. So around this time 8:30 I can see like it reached to 50%. So this again I can go on and check out like what actually triggered this particular node to get such a spike, what services was running, service instance was running, or what pod was running, what happened. So all such scenarios or all such things can help us to take a reference what is going on with my infra metrics, okay, or what is going on, to be honest, with my infra. Okay, so coming back to this thing, how we further use this. So basically, again, we use some attributes which are available in our log details. We can see here I have something called as deployment name, okay, which is again very important. We know like we deploy the deployment in Kubernetes. So this is something, I have a deployment name, I have a container name, I have a cluster as well. In here, I am interested in something called as node name as well. And that's what like I was showing to you in my node metrics. So if I just go back and come here on this particular graph, so you can see here this is something similar to my node name, which is taken from this particular log details, from this particular attribute. So basically we are using these attributes. Once you click on any log line, we know like what kind of pod it is, like what basically what is the name of the pod, to be honest, and what is the name of the node, and all such things will be provided to you. Again, you can play around with this feature. So basically, let's say if I want to see some custom logs, I can do that as well. So let's say from this time period, I can select it like this, and then I can again check. So if I click on this, yeah, so you can see here CPU usage, memory usage. And one more thing, this vertical fixed line we can see here, vertical dotted fixed line, is nothing but your log line timestamp. So basically I can see here it's around 8:20 on which log I have clicked. So that's why it's appearing like this. So before this 8:20, there before 3 hours we can see this particular logs that has been emitted. And similarly, like we can see, sorry, before this particular log line we can see like what was the status of your infra metrics. Okay, and similarly like again we will plot after 3 hours this thing. So right now I can see like before 8:20 till you can say 5:20 I have my kind of, you can say, infra metrics. Again, same is true after the end point as well. So if I just close this, and okay, so let me just show you one more feature. So let's say if we want to correlate our logs and this particular uh, panel, latency panel of our services. So one can basically do this as well. So previously we had only one button called as view traces, but now we have one more thing called as logs as well. So let's say if I want to see what happened with this particular service, why there was a spike in the latency and all such things, I can navigate to the log section, and you can see here by default filter has been implemented, service name as demo. And for that service, actually, we can see there are some logs generated. Okay. And the time frame is of 1 minute. Again, we can get the details of this log. So basically, what was the service name? What was the service instance ID? What happened this particular service? So all such things can be checked out. So this is something like as a new feature again we have built so that someone can make a correlation between your logs and your services. So that's about the overall features that we have covered for correlations between your logs, metrics, and traces. Further, we will be adding something new and we will continue this particular feature. So again, the last thing would be like it would be glad if you can add your suggestions be like on the Slack community Slack and or via mail if you reach out to us. So just tell us like where we can improve. Your feedback will be very important to us. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.